if you love technology, and you should fall in love with continuous education. Relocating is a big deal. So know that and know peace.
What are the unseen pressures that men have to face and don't talk about?
I'll give you a simple playbook.
Welcome back to Business Backstage. I am your host, Bukola Osuntuyi. Today's conversation is one that I've been looking forward to. We're talking leadership, we're talking influence, transition, and building a meaningful career, especially in a world that is constantly shifting. And my guest today is Adeyinka Fakunmoju. Yinka is a tech leader and a passionate ecosystem builder. He has a background in global enterprises like HP and a track record in enterprise sales and operational strategy. Adeyinka currently serves on the board of directors of his local ISEC chapter, where he mentors and coaches young people on leadership and achieving their full potential. He has also held board roles with Product Calgary, most recently as the director of volunteers, where he recruited and empowered individuals to engage with the Calgary tech ecosystem. Yinka, it is a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you. That intro was a mouthful, but thank you. But I completely agree with everything in it.
Fun fact, Yinka is a former colleague of mine back in 2014, 2015, I'm not sure.
20-something.
20-something. So, we worked together in an e-commerce company, and he's going to talk all about that. And I remember that Yinka was one of the colleagues that I always went to disturb on behalf of our customers. I know I would always go to meet him about certain things that the customers needed. So in today's episode, we're going to be exploring what it means to lead, how to build your influence in new environments, and why career growth is just as much about strategic discipline as it is about authenticity. So let's get straight to it. Yinka, it's been a journey so far in your career, from sales to customer success to partnerships. So I want you to tell us about your career background, and if you had to describe the thread that has connected everything, what would that be?
Yeah, I think for me, when I look back, one of our prior discussions, I always say the dots would always connect backwards. What I was sure about growing up was I wanted to do a role where I get to interact with multiple people on a regular basis, and I had to travel. So leaving college, leaving university, I got into technology firms. So it started with an e-learning firm that was just Venture Garden Group. They're still around today, and they're doing edutech. So that was my first foray into professional work. Then from there, I found myself into e-commerce, and I spent about 5 years in e-commerce across the two big e-commerce firms out of Africa. Then I moved into multinational OEM. So that's like device manufacturing for computing. So went further into technology and selling technology to ecosystem builders and also partners. That's what I've done. And more recently, I moved out of Africa and I'm now in North America, and I'm still working within tech ecosystem. Most recently, joined a startup that's focused on AI and virtual reality, and seeing how we can blend both of them together to see the outcomes that we can drive for health practitioners. So the focus for us is empowering the training of caregivers, and it's a separate technology that we can spend a lot of time on. But yeah, that's been a thread in terms of career. But what has been key for me is technology, trying to talk to a lot of people. Apparently now that I'm older, I know talking to a lot of people, I try to drive business outcomes kind of means sales. So I found myself in sales. I started from operations, landing in sales, and I've been enjoying it so far. It's been beautiful.
Amazing. That's a good summary of the background and quite impressive. Since you just mentioned sales, I want us to talk about it because as an operator, I get to work a lot with people across different functions. And I think that the sales role is one of the hardest non-technical roles, in my opinion. And have you, in your career in sales and partnerships, has there been any moment where you've had a really challenging experience when trying to make sales, or maybe something that's been embarrassing?
First of all, your point about sales being one of the more challenging non-technical role, I think that's a very unique framing that I haven't really heard a lot of people say, and maybe I agree, because it's, if you cannot sell what you are building, if you cannot sell your experience, it's very challenging for you to make progress. Like you can have my analogy is always like you can cook the best buffet. If people don't know that you exist, you've just put all the ingredients to waste. So you have to find a way to get your word out there for people to come and partake in the experience that you're providing. In terms of what I found very challenging, I'm going to answer this with a story. When I think about my experience, sales is always about influencing decisions, right? So one that came to mind was, I think the year was 2018 or 2017. I was in an e-commerce organization. So we're planning for our Black Friday. And at that time, we had launched a new technology, which was fulfillment technology. It was an inventory management technology. It meant that as an e-commerce vendor, if you dropped your items with us in the warehouse, we would be able to market it to our audience and we would be able to promise faster delivery. If you go on any website, Amazon, anyone, Best Buy, you would see different categories. And in the organization, there's usually somebody responsible for that category that if you click to buy an iPhone, for example, someone makes sure that the iPhone you've clicked is actually available physically somewhere and it can get to you. So that was my role. My role was managing that sales relationship with all of our vendors within the computing ecosystem. So I spent about 3 to 4 months before November to convince all of our partners to say, even though you've just started e-commerce journey about 2, 3 years ago, some of them were even recent vendors that they had never used e-commerce before. And I said, give us your inventory. We're going to put in our warehouse. We will be able to advertise it for you and you'll sell more for our Black Friday. They were reluctant. After a while, they agreed. And I was able to stop competing with about over $150,000 worth of inventory ready for Black Friday. And we even had a promise that when we start the campaign, if we run short of stock, we're going to come back to you and pick up more units and all of this. We were ready, locked and ready to go. Everything's good to go. So you've sold this technology today and everybody's excited to say, when Black Friday rocks around, these guys, I will just be seeing on my portal, items sold, millions of naira being made. Only to then, a week before the actual Black Friday, my organization announces that, hold on this your Black Friday idea, we are going to go through a merger and an acquisition, and it's starting this period. And for that reason, we cannot continue with our commercial operations. What that meant to me was that the inventory that we had collected from all these vendors, we then had to move it back to them and first of all explain to them that, oh, so what I sold to you, we're not sure we will be able to deliver on it anymore. I'm sorry, let's take it back. And it was such a painful thing to tell any partner. But for me, that was one of the transformational ideas around sales. I then had to go on a different campaign now. So you switch it around, a different campaign to say, hello, Mr. Partner. I know I promised that we would sell all your inventory. We will make so much money for you. But for reasons beyond my control, now we have to send the inventory back and all of that. And they were so furious, but I was able to manage that relationship, convince them to say, even though you brought the items to our warehouse when you were bringing it, this time around, you have to come pick it again by yourself. We're not going to send someone to come pick it up. Because when we're picking up from them, for some of them, we actually send our vehicles to go get them for them. So we manage the logistics. So, but the backward returns logistics, we're saying the vendors were also going to cater to that, which when you think about it, is very painful. But somehow I was able to convince about 80% of my vendors, they were able to come pick it up. And the relationship was not damaged. And I know the relationship was not damaged because I later moved on to HP. And those same vendors, because they're competing, they were naturally partners of HP. And we continued business together and we had a great experience. So that's one experience that I think about when I think of challenging, embarrassing, because we did not fulfill our side of the bargain. Yeah. So going back to them was like, oh my God, I promised you heaven and earth. And here I'm saying, sorry, this is not going to happen. So that was a humbling moment. And it captures everything when we think about sales and influencing decisions of our partners.
I really like that story, especially because
I know, because you were somehow like, you understand the background, you know the ecosystem, so you can imagine the things that went on.
Fully understand the background. Will I say, fortunately for me, I was no longer in that organization. So fortunately for me, I was at the time, because I can just imagine I was in operations, what that would mean for me handling customers and all of that, and having to say, just like the phrase that you used, I can't remember the last time I heard it, for reasons beyond our control.
Yeah, that's reasons beyond our control.
One lesson that I picked from what you were saying, especially with how you were able to pick things up and that the relationship was not destroyed as a result of that is that a business cannot just be in the hands of, for instance, the leadership or the business owner. Whatever department that you are leading, it is your own responsibility to, pick things up, to be able to advocate for your business as well, on behalf of your business. And I think you did that really, really well.
Thank
Yeah,
you for saying that. But
sure.
yes, you're right. Yeah, that's the lesson out of that.
We're all responsible. As long as you say you want to become an employee, then you should be accountable and be able to represent your company in the best way. So yeah, since we're talking about embarrassing moments and, companies transitioning and being bought off, what would you say is one leadership lesson that you have learned, maybe the hard way, and maybe one that you wish more business owners would understand?
In terms of business lesson that I have learned, I think if you put your customers first and you obsess on delighting your customers, you would almost always come out on top. And I found that once you embody that, it's always easy for you to convince anyone because your energy is very infectious. So you are very obsessed about delighting your customer. I think that's something that I've learned. Honestly, if you stay there in terms of what would business owners try to do, if you stay in that delighting your customers, you can almost not go wrong. And I'll give you a personal example
Okay.
that happened recently. Now that I'm here, I'm trying to also do some other like side businesses, which this is going to be news to you. Then it's a car rental business. For some reason, we're going to give a vehicle to someone, and he had imagined in his mind that when he goes to a car rental, when he drops his vehicle, the car rental business would manage his own vehicle for him. Like that doesn't happen. Like you have to take responsibility for your vehicle. In fact, we prefer you come to us without the vehicle. It's like going to an airport, you land, you pick up the vehicle, and you go. So for some of them, like there was a miscommunication, all of that. But my job in that moment was to make sure that stay calm, even though the customer was being irate and being difficult. Stay calm, try and resolve it. Focus on the issue, not the person. So the issue is we want to get you a very good experience. So we were able to de-escalate the situation. We gave the vehicle to the person. And at the end of his experience, I saw the rating yesterday. He gave us a 5-star rating saying, oh, this vendor was fantastic. They were very clear on communication. But that wasn't what you were saying at the beginning of the experience. So like if you just stay in that pocket of I'm going to focus on delighting my customer. Whether the customer deserves it or not is none of my concern. It's up to me to leave my value every time. That's something that I find that you almost cannot go wrong there, because what would happen is maybe you are doing it yourself now. The next thing you're going to introduce technology. The next thing you're going to introduce AI. But if your core is delighting your customers, you almost can't go wrong.
I absolutely agree with you. And I believe you know why. Because, I mean, I'm from customer experience background. And this is what I preach every day, to business owners, to my team members. I think there couldn't have been a better lesson for you to share is delighting. And it's so obvious, really, when you look at successful businesses. When you interview some of the business leaders, or when you listen to the interviews of some of the business leaders and they are disclosing what their strategy is, you would always hear the customer as one of the first, if not the first, the likes of Amazon, Apple, they're always the customer around it. So it may seem like it's a complicated thing for some businesses, but it's really not. It's really not.
Yeah.
Just about.
No, I've learned to say that it's simple but not easy, but it's
Yes,
simple.
that's a good one. And, you were talking about partnerships and how based on your own role as, maybe account manager, category manager, you have to be like in the middle. You are advocating for the business. You're also trying to serve your partners who are your customers. When it comes to building partnerships or relationships with maybe other organizations, what is your approach to building that partnership that brings alignment? And how are you able to measure success even beyond revenue generation?
Yeah, so I think I believe strongly in being a problem solver for your partners. So if you're a salesperson or you're a partnership person that you're listening to this conversation, one thing I have learned every time you get into a new account base or you've been handed over some clients to work with is to first of all understand their business, understand what their priorities are. Then the next thing I usually try to do is to become a problem solver for them. In any organization, when the partners are engaging with that ecosystem, they would always have bottlenecks. So if you use PHP, for example, Maybe I placed an order, my order is delayed, or I have some pricing issues. I always try to make sure that I own that relationship and I own the problems and I find resolutions for them such that even if I left that account, I can still call my partner and say, hi, I understand that you guys are doing XYZ. Can we do more business together? Because that way you become a trusted associate, a trusted advisor. So you go beyond just what you want to get from them. It goes about what can I give you in terms of value. When you give value, it's natural that value is going to come back to you. So that's the way I measure it. I measure it in terms of like the smooth alignment in that relationship. And just so we're clear, it's not always going to be kumbaya and nice. So I posted something on LinkedIn recently, and I was talking about it's category management, a sales role, and I broke it down and I ended up like saying, of course, it's a very big enterprise sales role. In the comment was one of my direct business partners that was a partner in our ecosystem. And she was like, oh yeah, we missed the work that you used to do with us. We wish you were still with us. This particular person, the reason why her comments made more sense to me and it meant a lot to me was we used to have difficult negotiations. Like we used to go back and forth on pricing, and she'll say, I want this price, we can't do this price. But despite that, we would always come to an alignment, we would do business together, we'll move. And for her to say that, like 18 months after we've had any business interaction, it just meant a lot to me. And so when you want to measure the level of success of you as a salesperson, I think it's that. It's that value that you give to your partner, that relationship that is built on mutual respect, and every other thing that happens, revenue that happens, those are like byproducts. Once you become a problem solver, you have that mutual alignment, you have that mutual respect, you would almost always like have a great time. So if you get into any account, if you speak about actionable insight, if you get into account, if you get into an ecosystem and you're a salesperson, any problems that your partners are having with the business, they would always have problems, just so you know. It's just what it is. They would have hiccups here and there. Those problems, look for the best way to solve those problems. When you cannot solve those problems, communicate clearly to the partner to say, I have seen this, I am working on it. We will get back to you in like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever your SLA is. And of course, you would also know this, like always under promise and over deliver. So that way you would always like be in front of that relationship.
That's really interesting. So what would you say are your non-negotiables when you are maybe establishing a partnership with an organization?
Non-negotiables in my mind would be like mutual respect and ethics. Once you have those fundamental values aligned, usually you can do business with the person. Because that means like those are my non-negotiables. Like I don't want in any situation for any difficult negotiation to go out of rail or to become like an attack or personal stuff. It shouldn't be. It should always it should be mutual respect. It should be grounded in ethics. Once you have those two, in my mind, I think you should be good. You can layer on top of that, but the foundation is mutual respect and ethical behavior. Yes.
Super. So now technology is advancing at a very, very fast pace. I mean, you're in Canada, I'm sure a lot is happening where you are, and artificial intelligence is really transforming operations, and that includes sales, it includes customer success. So if, there's someone watching you right now and they have a similar career background as you, and that person is thinking they are being left behind based on artificial intelligence and they are struggling to catch up, what would you say to such person?
Yeah, first of all, you're not alone. Just know that technology is always going to advance. So if you think about the person that was a typist before the advent of the modern computer that all of us are using today, and they were using a typewriter, of course, the advent of computers meant that as a typewriter, your job became obsolete. But that also then meant that you could learn the skills to become computer literate. I remember like when I was growing up, going to computer school or something. Like there were places called computer schools where you go there, you gotta learn it. So, and I think that was a response to people seeing that, oh, my children are growing into an economy where they would need to be computer literate. And computer literacy then meant something as simple as understanding Microsoft Excel, the whole Microsoft suite, being able to use PowerPoint, all of that. Those were the fundamentals. And right now, organizations don't even expressly state that you should you should be able to use a PC. They assume that you should. Like this is like a non-negotiable now, right? So knowing that, yes, some people were displaced, but most people learned how to use the modern PC, and now they're also creating value. And what also happened, just so we're clear, is Yes, some jobs went away because of the PC coming or the internet coming, but more jobs were created. This conversation that we're having, we wouldn't have been able to have it without the advent of the PC and the internet. So that's all of that is to say that if you love technology, and you should, that's probably where you start. You should fall in love with continuous education. You should never stop learning. The more you learn, the more you grow, the better for you. So on that foundation, the next thing is AI is just one big word. Break it down for yourself and start to feed on a healthy diet of information around artificial intelligence, right? And there are a lot of free courses online. I just completed one of them, some Google Gen AI leadership course. The course in itself is free. Like the course is free. The exam you pay for, but the course is free. And I thought I knew AI, I thought I understood LLMs, blah, blah, but going through that course, like understanding the infrastructure level, the platform level, the models are just like mathematical algorithms and how you can manipulate data, how you can ground your data, how you can use RAG, retrieval augmented answers. It just helps you to understand these things better. And the reason why I can talk about it now, and I can even like advocate for organizations that want to launch AI product, which is one of the things I'm doing, is I just fell in love with it. Like just fall into the learning. I'm in love with learning, fall in love with learning. And I'm saying fall in love with learning because today it is AI. Some years ago it was maybe NFT, maybe it was VR, maybe it was Bitcoin, and maybe it was the internet. Tomorrow it's also going to be something else. Maybe it's going to be autonomous driving, whatever. But always be involved in learning. Just like fall in love with learning. Then the next step is an action point is look for courses online. A lot of them are free. Like I
Yeah.
will tell you, go on Coursera, go on Google Cloud. There are free courses for you. Take those courses, do self-paced learning. And a fun fact that everyone will know is with the advent of information overload online, the rate of dropouts from online courses is almost at 80 to 90%. And that means that people are not completing it, even though the information is readily available. So do your best not to fall into that statistic. Honestly, that's how I have done it. And I think that's a framework for anyone to have. Once you
Yeah.
hear of anything new, stay curious, go and learn about it. We all have social media now. Follow people that are talking about those kind of things. Watch these channels like this, people discussing what they are doing, where it's going. Leverage YouTube, leverage Instagram, have a healthy information diet. And the sky is just the beginning for you.
That is such a great advice. And I like what you said about completing what you start. I think a lot of people struggle with that. Sometimes you get excited about something and then midway, you just get demotivated. And sometimes it may be fear like, oh my God, I don't think I can do this. So it's really great practical advice. I want to talk about what happens behind the scenes as it relates to men because I have worked in technology industry and
Yeah.
of course you would see the men are usually on top of their game, especially the ones in very technical roles. But I believe that just as women also face certain challenges, which we are usually more vocal about, things like, unfairness in the workplace, bias and stuff like that. What would you say are some of the unseen pressures that men have to face and have to, navigate in their careers, especially the ones that maybe they don't feel safe, to talk about?
Yeah, I think this is a very important conversation, and it's a conversation that I'm also very interested in. I mean, learning a lot about how to articulate it. So when you think of the workplace and the pressures that the modern man is facing, I'll just go back and say, first of all, women in time have been in a way disadvantaged. And the reason why was, I mean, the reason why there are lots of reasons, but like we lived in a world where people believed in muscle. So if you're very strong, you were given opportunity. But now that we live in an intellectual age, in the modern Western world, women are leading the charge. And it should be like that because that's what it is. Like, that's how it should be. Like, we should bring as many brains as possible to the marketplace. And if it happens that this is going to come from a lady or a guy, it doesn't matter. Just bring the brains to the marketplace. And we are happy to see that. What has then happened is even outside of the workplace. So if your personality was built on being a breadwinner, if you are not financially providing in your relationship, in your family, at your house, even within like siblings, if you're not like in that position, you feel like you think that you do not have anything to give. And
Very
that's one thing you have to first of all demystify because a lot of people are going through that right now. Women are now like financially independent, and some people are feeling threatened about that. And I would say that if you're feeling threatened, what you then need to do is you need to focus on yourself and see what can I do. So if I cannot use finance to be my anchor point, how can I bring more value to this conversation, to this space? So
Yeah.
that's where your vision comes as a person. That's where your learning comes. You focus on learning a lot. That's also where you have to have good and positive role models that show what masculinity in the modern world looks like. And that's like the foundation of it. Like people need to understand what masculinity in the modern world looks like. To then go into the workplace, one area that I've seen that men struggle is asking for help. So
Mm.
also because you've built this into your persona, you think like you must be able to do everything by yourself. People don't want to ask for help. And asking for help is one of the foundational things that help people to guide you, which is
Yeah.
why you should have a mentor. You should have like people speaking for you in the rooms that you don't have access to. I'll give you a simple playbook that has worked for me. When you get into an organization, especially if it's a multinational, even if it's a mid-level organization, as fast as possible, in about 3 months, if they have a mentorship program, sign up. If they have all those support systems program, just sign up. If they don't have, look for 3 or 4 people in the organization and let them become your mentors, let them become your coach or your guy. And they don't have to be in your department. In fact, they should not be in your department. And
Okay.
how do you do this? You schedule calls with them once in a quarter, once in 2 months, and you guys just talk about what you're going through at work. Sometimes you can talk about personal things, but of course, if it's an official relationship, keep it official and formal. But talk about the things you're going through, the things you've learned, areas where you think you want to learn more. What do they think about the things you've said? I just hear them out and of course go into those meetings prepared.
Mm.
Something that I'm beginning to also advocate for more, because we come from like sub-Saharan Africa, from Nigeria, is when you talk about parental leave, right? The workplace is beginning to be fair to women and all of that, and we love that. But up until the woman wants to have a child, then all of a sudden she's going to take some time off work. And when she comes back, she's going to have to catch up. And when she comes back, by the way, she has a toddler or a
Yeah.
baby she's taking care of. And you are saddling her with that responsibility. And it's going to affect her performance at work. Why are we saying she has to be the one to have all those leave? Why don't we make it possible that paternal leave becomes a big deal? So it's parental leave. So as a society, it will mean that both mom and dad of the child take time off. They can say, as a family, you have 12 months, as a family, you have 18 months, but the father must also take time off so that the lady is not the only one going out of the. Because what happens is if you are in your house and both of you are working and both of you are at level 4, if you take 18 months to take care of your baby
Yeah.
and the man does not take that time off, just by law of compounding and doing things, the person is going to grow in their career because they have time to invest more.
Fine.
And even when you come back, you still have a baby you're taking care of. So you're still losing time at work. But if after that 18 months, we both take 9 months, so that way it balances things out, so that the woman doesn't feel like, oh my god, I have to catch up, because both of us were responsible for raising leaders into the society and raising balanced individual. And I think it also then sets positive examples for these kids too. So it's like it's a very nuanced, layered conversation. If you want to limit, and I deliberately did not limit it to the office space, because I feel like it's a broader conversation, and
Yes.
it's still ongoing, and people need to find their balance in it and find their way forward. But yeah, I'm happy that you brought it up, and it's something that I'm actively and passionate about.
This is so insightful. So
Hmm.
insightful. We've touched on quite a number of things. I mean, being able to ask for help, that is so true. I can't even really think of any colleague of mine that's any male that has really shown that level of maybe vulnerabilities to say, I need help. Just maybe until I started to work here in the United Kingdom, then I started to see a bit of that. But you are really spot on in that area, and especially about the parental leave, because I can so relate to that. I think now they're giving the men more leave days now. Before it was like non-existent, but now maybe you'll find like 2 weeks or a month or something. You touched on mentorship and your advice, saying that men can also leverage mentorship. And I know that you're somebody who is also very big on mentorship support and coaching. So how has your idea of mentorship evolved, especially from where you're coming from, back in your career? And what do you look for in someone who can maybe challenge you to move higher or think about doing more?
just so we're clear, you can have mentors in every direction. So if you're a married person, you can have like a marriage mentor, a marriage coach. If you want to become an athlete, of course you're going to have a coach anyway. So if you want to be a business person, you should have a mentor. If you want to have a successful podcast, you should probably find people that have successful podcasts and have them mentor you and just talk to them. And I think mentoring makes it seem a bit complicated. Just see it as someone that you have regular conversations with that can guide you and share their own experience. And using their own experience, they can give you perspective of areas you can think about. That's how it is. So then that's how I see it. So that way, you go into the relationship very prepared. You go in with the areas where you are, the areas where you want to grow, and have a good conversation. It can be a coffee chat of 45 minutes once in every 3 months. That's one. Two is the other one people don't think about is also become a mentor yourself. Look at the Bukola of 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, or 7 years ago, and just try and guide that person. Of course, the person has to be willing, but you have to put yourself out there to see, put yourself in an environment where young people can meet you and you can then offer guidance to them because it also helps you to sharpen your own personality and your thought around mentorship because
Yeah.
it's now it's bi-directional. So like you're giving, of course, by the law of nature, you're also going to get value back in
Mm.
that relationship so that when you also go to your mentors and your coach, you kind of can understand how that dynamic should work. I believe as young people, as young leaders, because I believe that we're still very young leaders, we should take a responsibility and an active interest in shaping the next generation. So when I talk about mentorship, I always make sure I talk about it from these two directions. You should get mentors. I agree. Who is going to be a mentor? I'll talk about that a bit. But most importantly, everything you know today, trust me, somebody is setting that thing as goals. Somebody say, "Oh my God, look at Bookie, goals, goals. This is the person I want to be like." And you can help them. You can position in such a way that people can reach out to you and you can do that. Done. Then now for you as a person, I think when you look at people that have the results that you admire, I've been learning more these days that when people when people give you criticism or they give you feedback, check the person's profile. If the person does not have the results that you admire, you have to then weigh their feedback. Because if
Mm.
your results don't tally, if you are living your life in a way I would not prefer, it's difficult for me to take what you're saying seriously. So your job in filtering who is going to be your mentor is to look for people living their lives in the area that you want
Yeah.
in a way that you prefer. So look for people that already have some outcomes that you like, that are already where you think you want to be in a few years' time, or you like the way they think, the way they articulate things. Yeah, then make a short list, have a conversation with 3 or 4 or 5 of them, then narrow in on 2 or 3 and create a cadence and continue to work it. Final thing, nobody's going to be a permanent mentor.
Mm.
So after 1 year or 2 years, if it's no longer serving the need, if you're no longer getting the value, if it's no longer a person no longer available or stagnating, it's okay to refresh the bench. Is the reason why if you're a football fan, the best coaches in the world they get sacked and they hire another coach. And you know what? If you think a coach got sacked, that's it's not the end of their life. They'll move to another team and you see that they're doing well for that team. And this other team has gotten another coach and they're now doing better. Just mean like at that time, the resources that this team needed to go to the next level was no longer available with that person, and it's okay. So I feel like the more we internalize those things, we see ourselves outside of it. So look at yourself outside of yourself and judge yourself on the merits of that shape the outcomes that you want by talking to the right people that already have similar outcomes that can inspire you. Which is why again, have a very healthy diet of information and conversations that lead to the places you want to go.
Thank you so much. And on the back of that, if you are enjoying this episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this episode with somebody who can also benefit from it. I really like what you said about the mentorship, especially with the fact that it is important to evaluate your mentors, interview them. You don't just go with anyone, right? I'm a mentor on a business platform called Help to Grow program that is
Good job.
Yes, it's backed by the UK government here. And of course, on the platform, even the training that they would give the mentors, they would tell you that there are certain people that would come to you and just want to know if you're a good fit. So be prepared that some people may come to you, but they'll just come for the preliminary, conversation and just to weigh things and see if you're a good fit, and they may not return. So yeah, that's really important. Thanks for sharing that. You you have moved from, Nigeria to Canada. How many years have you been in Canada now?
3 years, 3 years, 3 years.
3 years. What would you say? I mean, I believe there's the good parts of it, right? I mean, feel free to share. What has been the hardest part of, transitioning into that new environment, the new country, and how were you able to keep your sense of identity intact? And I'm asking this because there are lots of people who would relocate and start their career elsewhere, and maybe they were at a certain level before, maybe a top level, but they move to a new country and then they lose their sense of identity and they just stay all quiet. How do you keep that sense of identity intact?
Yeah, keeping your sense of identity when you relocate is first of all grounded in the fact that you need to understand that relocating is a big deal. So know that and know peace and be humbled by it. That's the first thing. The second thing is it's a process.
Hmm.
So I've been out of the country. I've now been settling in this country for about 3 years. I cannot even say I'm fully settled because bear in mind I've spent over 30 years somewhere else and I'm trying to rebuild a life here. So give yourself some grace to know that it's going to take a while. There's a process to you settling into this new environment too. So give yourself some grace and gradually work towards it. Of course, you can have like your goals for year one, year two, year three. When you think about it in that light, it helps you to be calmer and to go through the processes easier. And that's important because if you're listening to this podcast, by average age, you are probably ahead of 20, 25, which means that you've spent 20 plus years somewhere else. And if you're someone like some of us, you spend 30 plus somewhere else. So you cannot expect for you to equalize that relationship or that experience in about 2 or 3 or 4 years. Like, so it's a process and I am still ongoing and most of us are ongoing. But two is when you relocate into a new place, what I have found is try to immerse yourself in a new culture that you're now in. It's important to just go out more, understand what's happening. If you're coming from Nigeria, Lagos, like me, there were some things I didn't need to do back in Lagos. For example, which is funny, I didn't have to post on LinkedIn a lot in Nigeria.
Hmm.
Why? Because I knew people, like people knew me. We went to university together. Like the relationships there, I already kind of knew these people offline. So I don't need to talk too much online about what I'm doing, where I'm going, blah, blah. But when you move to a new location, it's important for you to find a way to share your skill set with
Yes.
this new audience and for them to know that, oh, this person is here, this person can get this thing done. So you do it. Second thing is like going to networking events. Back in Nigeria, I didn't really used to go because just like my life in itself was a network of people that I hung out with.
Exactly.
But yeah, I need to make an attempt to show up somewhere. Like we have like a group call with some of my friends, and some people are in Lagos, some people are in the UK, some people are in Canada. One easy thing that I find is when we call the Lagos people, they are always at one event. Whether you like it or not, those are like natural networking things that happen because they are in their natural habitat. So, but when you then relocate to a new place, you then have to make the attempt to recreate that habitat for yourself,
So
to
true.
immerse, to get yourself involved in the culture, to get yourself involved in the event. And it will not happen naturally in the beginning. So what I did, I started looking for newsletters about, so of course, I'm interested in technology. So all the newsletters around events in technology, I started going. You show up, and again, remember, if you show up as one, doesn't mean you're tied there. You have to think of more places to go, right? So you start showing up at different places. Do not stay at home. When you have a goal that every week you want to attend 2 or 3 events, some of them can be virtual. And when you go there, have a goal that I want to meet one person.
Hmm.
Just one person. Just one person. I'm going to say, hi, my name is Adeyinka. How did you find out about this event? What brought you here? Blah, blah, blah. How you find it? So that once I meet that one person, the event is done for me. Then the next thing is look for a community to join. That's
Hmm.
where Product Calgary came in for me. When you join that community, for some people, it might be a religious community, it might be a tech community, but this is a business podcast that I recommend for you. Join a community around your field. So if you're in tech, join a community around it. So when you attend those events, you join a community. The next level is don't be a bench warmer in that community. Become an active participant. So volunteer. So the best way to get access to events in the Western world and not paying for it is to volunteer. So
Hmm.
look at events coming up and try and volunteer for them. They will not charge volunteers to attend those events. And by default, if you're a volunteer, you're already going to be in that ecosystem. You're going
Yeah.
to learn more. So join the community. Don't be a bench warmer in that community. Become active in the community. Start doing stuff. From there, people see you actively doing work and the way you show up. And that also gives you value because when you relocate, there's a mental side to it that is very stressful. And I went through that where you're like, you don't know what you're doing, you're very disillusioned. And the way to break out of that is to become of value. Once you're providing value, you find worth in the value that you're providing. That's why you have self-worth. And I'll end with saying, in terms of connecting with people on LinkedIn, never send someone a blank connection request. Just so like, hi, Bookie, we were together at Business Backstage event yesterday. It was nice connecting with you. I hope that we can continue our conversation here. Done. And I hope I've answered your question because I know
Oh, yes.
I went the full holistic perspective as to like, if you wanted to have a relocation playbook, this is something in that direction.
Exactly. And I mean, profound responses, very relatable because I'm also here in the UK. I've been here 3 years now. So similar, just different countries. I would say the same strategy applies and has proven really, really effective. When you mentioned that if you want to move to US, I was hoping you would say UK. Are you not coming to the UK?
Maybe the UK also. I don't know. Opportunities.
Yeah, Yinka, this has been great. One last round, which is the rapid choices round, right? So let me tell you how it's going to happen. I'll give you like a phrase, give you options, and you quickly choose one. No thinking, just your gut.
Okay.
So we want to know who Yinka is.
All right, sure. Let's go. Let's try.
So question 1. Would you rather take a risky career leap or stay secure in a comfortable role?
Risky.
Okay, good. So there might be some questions that you may need to maybe add to it, maybe just a line.
You didn't say that.
Yeah, well, feel free to do that. So question 2, would you rather build one powerful connection or grow a wide network fast?
Powerful connection.
Amazing. Well, do you want to tell us why?
Yeah, so like the strength of your connection is the value that you guys can exchange. And if you have one powerful connection, you can leverage it in multiple places. So if I know one powerful person that knows me very well and I trust me, the person can do multiple warm introductions for me in their own network. Than knowing a lot of people and like the relationship is a mile wide, but like an inch deep. But I rather have one relationship that is just like a mile deep and just like an inch wide. So just one person. Because from that person, I can get to meet other people and their words will carry weight when they introduce me to other people.
Okay. Question 3, values first or opportunities first when making tough decisions?
Oh, values. You always have to be grounded in your values.
Okay, good. 4th one, reinvent your career in a new industry or climb higher in your current one.
As of today, where I am now, climb higher where I am, yes.
Okay, great. Last one, mentor others early or wait until you feel fully ready.
You're never ready. When you starting is what makes you get ready. So mentor others early.
Mentor others early. Fantastic. And that brings us to the end of this powerful conversation with Adeyinka Fakunmoju. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, your wisdom, and especially your authenticity with us. So for those listening, if something in this conversation resonated with you, I want you to think about how you can apply it to your own journey. Maybe it's building your personal board or saying yes to a challenge or showing up with more clarity and intention in your daily work. If you have enjoyed today's conversation and you want more behind the scenes insights from leaders like Adeyinka, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode on Business Backstage. And if this episode gave you something to think about, share it with somebody who would love it too. I am Bukola Osuntoyi and I will see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Buki.